Hi there, Chris here with another in-depth look. In-depth look into what you say? We are going to look at Apocalypse. Really, the concern is Apocalypse for Eldar. Really, I'm going to concentrate on that mostly, for the most part, because I love Apocalypse. Apocalypse is great fun. I was really looking forward to an update for this, and especially since Eldar Codex was just a few months back. This is all great. This is 2013 has really been a fun year for Eldar players and Eldar Apocalypse players. Everybody else, I don't care. And so let's dive right in to the Apocalypse. And so the first thing we get to is, well, how they organize up. Now there are a few suggestions as far as the warlord traits and such, strategic assets, the deployment and such, and so we get into the missions. The book is fairly solid. You get quite a bit of rules and descriptions and such. I mean, we take it to 60, 70, I don't know. It's a whole bunch of pages. Once we get to the formations, where do we get to the formations? We get about 75 pages concerning rules in a book of about, geez, I don't even know, 290 some pages. And so the book covers everything from, you know, the first turn, the deployments, everything like that, which is pretty much just the same as 6th edition, but we do have a turn summary where you can determine unnatural disasters, which is a special table, you know, we'll talk about later. And then it goes from the first player's turn set breakdown to determining divine intervention, which is a special table. We'll talk about that later. Declaring finest hours, another thing we'll talk about later. And then you players take your turn following the normal 6th edition rules, and then the second player do the same thing, and then you know, rinse, repeat kind of thing, right? And then so we got victory conditions. Victory conditions are a little bit different from before. We got our strategic objectives as well. And mysterious objectives. I'm not a huge fan of mysterious objectives, even in 6th edition. I don't play with it a lot, and so I'm not a huge fan of it. And then we also have our strategic victory conditions, which was kind of like what we had back in earlier Apocalypse editions with, you know, a vehicle's destroyed, and so it's, you know, worth like 3 victory points and stuff like that. And then we also get into the bonus victory points, where, you know, you can get bonus victory points for destroying super heavies, killing gargantuan creatures, killing the War Master, which is like your overall warlord, stopping a finest hour, which is, you know, we'll get into that in a little bit. And then also now we can spend our victory points. As victory points are determined throughout each turn, we can spend those points now. And there's a lot of ways we can spend our points. Basically, we can return units and even super heavies. We can turn, as long as they're not over 15 hull points, we can return them back. They go into the strategic reserve, and then you can bring them back. So imagine, you know, you're winning, you got a little bit of leeway, and you just said, well, maybe we do want that Scorpion super heavy to come back. Now we can. And so let's just jump right into mission special rules. First one we'll cover is divine intervention. And so basically every army, yeah, just about every army, gets access to these divine intervention. Now divine intervention is basically you can pray to your gods and they'll invoke some sort of special ability throughout the turn, once per game kind of thing, right? The Imperium get the God Emperor of Mankind, and that covers Imperial Guard, Sisters of Battle, Space Marines, Dark Angels, Blood Angels, Space Wolves, Black Templars, Grey Knights. Shock, right? The Ruinous Powers, Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle, Slaanesh. That's concerning the Chaos Demons and the Chaos Space Marines. Big shock there. Gork and Mork. I don't think I need to explain who that's for. Gala Mencha Kane for Eldar and Dark Eldar. The Greater Good for the Tau Empire. The Hive Mind for the Tyranids. And the Star Gods of the Satan for the Necrons. And so what does this mean for our pretty little Eldar? More than 50 Eldar and or Dark Eldar models have been removed, friend or foe. So even if you're fighting Eldar and it's an Eldar and Eldar battle and Dark Eldar involved, and as long as 50 have died, we can make our call for this. And the special ability that it grants is all Eldar and Dark Eldar units gain hatred and rage. That's really cool. Hatred and rage. Hatred for the bonus to hits, rage for the higher strengths. And so the effect that it gives is called Children of the Bloody-Handed God. All Eldar And Dark Eldar units have hatred and rage. That's kind of nice. Everybody else gets, you know, stuff. Imperium gets Furious Charge, Fearless, Big Whoop. Although the Tau one is really good. It's kind of scary if you have Tau. It's good if you have Tau allies. But they get Stubborn, Feel No Pain, and Counterattack. That's kind of big. So this is at the beginning of your side's turn. And your War Master can try, or your Warlord can try and call this down, as long as the criteria is met, which is not bad. And so next, we go to Finest Hour. And this is kind of fun. This is your Warlord can do this once per game at the start of any of your turns. Your Warlord gets a 3 invulnerable save, and Eternal Warrior helps the survival of the Autarch, and is allowed to order an all-out attack. And this is the beginning of the turn. And so that's why I guess you get granted bonus victory conditions if you kill the Warlord during his turn that he was doing this, right? And so basically you can roll on 3 different kinds of tables: command, personal, and strategic. Basically, it's like the Warlord traits, but ×2 kind of thing for Apocalypse, right? And so for command, you get, one is like you get Relentless, another one is you grant Feel No Pain, Stubborn, Fleet, Crusader, Preferred Enemy. And that's all within 24 inches of the Warlord. That's really cool. In personal, he can re-roll. He can triple his attacks. He can re-roll fail to wounds. He doubles his strength and toughness. He gets a toughness of 10 and a 2 invulnerable. He gets +2 attacks, and he causes instant death that are AP 1s. That's as if he rolls on his personal. So if you want him to spearhead that assault, that Autarch, if he's on like a jet bike or something, or a Farseer that's on a death mission, man, that'd be lots of fun. That's carnage and a half. So, and the next one, strategic. Strategic, the Warlord will get an additional strategic asset. He can, units within 24 inches of him, anybody overwatching can fire at their ballistic skill. That's kind of nice. Can nominate a unit, and they get to reroll to hit against a nominated unit. Can reroll enemy, can reroll all failed to wound rolls against a nominated unit, or failed penetration rolls. And within 12 inches of him, he can grant Zealot to units. And finally, he can return 1 unit that's been completely destroyed back into reserves. So that's not bad. That's a big one. Imagine that, lost that Dire Avengers unit that was hanging on to an objective. Boom, get to bring them right back in. That's pretty good. These strategic, or these Finest Hours for our Warlords are a lot of fun. Tons of stuff you can do. I have yet to play in a game of Apocalypse yet with these new rules. Just itching to do it. Have to film one soon enough, I suppose. It's kind of hard to see, like with an Autarch or Farseer, or even the Avatar. Can you imagine the Avatar? The Avatar really, I guess, really can't or doesn't benefit too much from some of this, other than, going up to toughness 10, 2 invulnerable save. An Avatar on one of these Finest Hours. Scary. Especially since the Avatar most likely is going to be at the forefront of the fight. Imagine the Avatar within the formation of the Phoenix Lords. That'd be fun too. Lots of fun stuff. Let me know what you guys think. What kind of combos? Who do you think should be the best Warlord in an Eldar Apocalypse army? Do you think it should be the Autarch, Farseer, Avatar, Phoenix Lords? What about the Phoenix Lords? I didn't even think of the Phoenix Lords. Lots of benefits there. So many options. It's just, it's so hard to decide. And so Space Marines, they get Sons of the Primarch, and it applies to Chaos as well. They can invoke that instead of going with the regular one, right? And so let's move along to strategic assets. And so basically these are signed out kind of like before, where you get 1 per player, or you can determine how many you're going to get. 1 per player though seems fair. Although if one side has 3 players and the other side has 2 players, then the side that has 2 players gets 3. So it's it's whatever number of players there are per side on one particular side gets strategic asset. Seems fair, right? And so for strategic assets, there are some generic ones, like Blind Barrage, where you can call down a bunch of markers, Camouflage, which grants shrouding to everybody within 24 inches of your HQ. Flank March has changed a little bit. It's only for a formation, so that only applies to a vehicle, like squadron of vehicles, the formations within the book, or, you know, yeah, it doesn't apply to your whole army anymore, basically. So, small nerf, but it's still really good. I mean, it's lots of fun, as we'll see later. Minefield, this one's kind of a pain, as you mark down a 6-inch by 36-inch corridor, and that's a minefield, and it's just basically dangerous terrain. So, you know, everybody moving through that kind of boned. An Orbital Strike. This one's lots of fun. It's a big, it's the Mega Apocalypse Blast marker, and so it's got the variable strengths. You only get it once, obviously, but, you know, if you get that bonus where you can draw another card, and, you know, it's kind of fun. Precise Coordinates. Any army. This is careful. This is basically careful planning from before. All friendly units that deep strike don't scatter. Handy. Before, it used to be you could bring in your reserves on turn 1, I thought, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I played an Apocalypse game. Next one is Rearm. It's basically a supply depot. Start of your turn, any friendly units can replenish any one-use only weapons. So hunter-killer missiles, things of that nature. You know, that's not bad. Replacements. You can replace one of your units that was destroyed. They go into ongoing reserves. But you can't replace anything that has more than 15 hull points. Or more than 15, I should say. If it's got exactly 15, I mean, it's kind of silly. And we also have a shield generator. Basically, everything within 6 inches, you basically place this marker down and you put it close to an enemy unit. And as long as your friendly unit is outside of that marker, then the enemy can't target it with that unit, can't target your unit. It's kind of funny. You got to read it. It's kind of funny the way it's worded. And so then also we get Supreme HQ. Pick one of your high command formations. All friendly units gain zeal. So it's kind of like the one off the table, off the warlord table. Trophy kill. Nominate one of your enemy warlords. He's extra bonus points if you kill him. And then so we get a whole bunch of things for Imperial Guard, Space Marines, Chaos Space Marines. Now, like I said, I'm not going to go through all these. Like I said, I'll be here all day going through all these things. Oof. Be tired. And so we get to the Eldar. Now the Eldar, a couple of them are kind of like what they were before, but updated for 6th edition. And so Eldritch Tempest, Eldar Psychics. Basically, this is imagining like a laser blast coming from one of the ships in orbit kind of thing, right? And so in your shooting phase, from your warlord, you can make this attack, and it's infinite. It's a low strength, high AP. It's gonna do in Terminators. Ordnance 4 Apocalyptic Barrage. That's kind of cool. Just for fun, right? Just throw this on the table and boom, 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 you know? Next one is Phantasm. Use this one after your deployment is complete. All Eldar units have Shrouded. That's lots of fun. For the first turn, of course, not for the whole game. That'd be ridiculous. Next one is Strands of Fate. Basically, is if the game is a draw, you roll and you win. Which is kind of fun, right? It's like, oh, it's a draw. And how many Apocalypse games have we played where they've been a draw? And so now there's a strategic asset, makes it auto win. Kind of, sort of. Not really. And so next one is Waygate. And basically this one is you place a marker that looks like a little waygate, right? And all friendly psychers within 18 inches of this thing get to re-roll perils and the psychic tests. Which is kind of cool. And Dark Eldar get a bunch, but I'm not going to go into them because I don't care about Dark Eldar. I want Dark Eldar allies, but yeah. Witches. Bunch of witches and beasts. Fun. Lots of fun. And so that's it really for strategic assets for everybody and for Eldar. And so strategic reserves have changed slightly, not really, but, and basically we can bring in our reserves right on the first turn, which is kind of helpful because sometimes you don't have a lot of room. Sometimes you know you're not going to get the first turn, and so you want to keep some of your stuff in reserve. And this allows you to at least preserve some of your models so that they get a chance. But you don't have to worry about the, you know, going second on the second turn and rolling, and you know, I mean, you can get your big stuff in on the first turn. And so super heavies and such, flyers, they can come in on the first turn now. Units with deep strike, they can come in on the first turn. Fast vehicles can come in on the second turn, and everybody else can come in on any turn except during the first. And so basically strategic reserve, lots of stuff could come in on your first turn that you didn't deploy. But I mean, if you're using, you know, your strategic assets and stuff, there's lots of possibilities. I mean, like with the addition of all the special rules and all the stuff you can do in your codex now, and then all the special stuff that we can get now in the Apocalypse book, there is just so many possibilities for carnage. Yeah, I couldn't possibly go over them all. I would have to like, I'd have to sit down and, oh, it's exhausting. You just, there's too many possibilities. It'd be ridiculous. And so next you can roll on unnatural disasters. And basically this is just to add a little bit of flavor to the games. You know, I'm really not one for random events, unless of course, you know, we're playing a story out. But like if we're doing just kind of big games and, you know, it's just kind of a pick up and play kind of thing, rolling this kind of stuff, you know, just kind of, it's hard to keep track. You often need a GM when playing really big Apocalypse games. You really need a GM, someone who's going to ref and keep things in order. Because I know anybody who's played any big Apocalypse games, you know, and it's just like 4 buddies get together, you play a big game, and you know it's 12 hours later, and you're only into your second turn, and it's like, my gosh, what have we been doing? And so, yeah. And so yeah, there's all sorts of stuff. I mean, you've got Warp Storm Breach, Magma Storm, and I mean you can imagine what these kind of crazy things are about, right? Psychic Conjunction, the Great Conjunction, Seismic Explosion, Zombie Apocalypse. Zombie Apocalypse actually sounds kind of fun. Exterminatus, virus bomb hits the planet, wipes everybody out. And so next we get to the missions we can play within Apocalypse. First one being Race to Destruction. And basically there's only an 18-inch gap between you, and you play lengthwise across your table. But of course you're playing huge tables, right? So, but 18 inches away from each other, just so that the carnage just begins really fast. And so this uses a whole bunch of special rules. You can use your Divine Intervention, Finest Hour, Mysterious Objectives, Strategic Assets, Strategic Objectives, Strategic Reserves, Strategic Victory Points, and your Unnatural Disasters. And so really, basically, it's kind of like a Dawn of War, but the difference between the sides is a total of 18 inches. It seems like a pretty standard kind of game kind of setup as far as, you know, setting up your armies and playing a regular kind of Apocalypse kind of game. And so next mission is the Meat Grinder. This one, special rules, holy moly. It's Divine Intervention, Finest Hour, Mysterious Objectives, Strategic Assets, Strategic Objectives, Strategic Reserves, Strategic Victory Points, and Unnatural Disaster. Read all that 10 times fast. And so they're all basically just random game, like really it's like just deploy and fight it out, which is really a kind of Apocalypse kind of style. I mean, nobody really likes too much complication in your Apocalypse because it just slows you down, and Apocalypse is going to take a long time to play regardless because it's got so many models in it, right? And so this one basically is kind of like a Dawn of War deployment, but again, you have a total of 24 inches between you. Really, like it's not that much difference. Oh, it's starting to get into some crazy stuff now. Crossroads of Death. This one's got a crazy little deployment. Everybody is just kind of all over the place from the table edges, and you have a little 18-inch total buffer zone around you, so like a 9-inch deployment, no, 18-inch deployment, going all around the table, and everybody's all over the place, and you kind of randomly determine. Yeah, so everybody's just kind of all over the place. It seems kind of cool. And again, it's got a huge amount of special rules. Ill Met by Moonlight. Night fighting rules. Automatically during the first turn of the game, and in the second turn, and then both sides roll dice. That's kind of cool. Crossroads of Death. It's really chaotic. It's like people all over the place. It's kind of like, it seems really good for one of those kind of games where it's a pick up and play kind of style where, you know, everybody kind of shows up and says, hey, let's play a game. All right, you got 5 guys, I got 5 guys, let's play a game. And everybody deploys all over the place, and, you know, it seems really crazy. The next one is pincer attack. Now this one looks really cool. The defenders deploy basically in the middle of the table, and the attackers deploy on either short edge of the table, and they got to be at least 12 inches away from each other. Well, this is really cool. So this is, I guess, representing that you've been surrounded and getting attacked. And of course, it's got a crap ton of special rules. This one looks like a lot of fun. This one looks like you got to, like, you know, have somebody who's going to go, okay, I'm going to take y'all on, and, you know, fight it out on both sides. And, you know, who's willing. This one is very, seems very thematic. I have another one, Final Assault. This one, the defenders get a larger deployment zone, but you're only 12 inches away from the attackers. And Exterminatus. 24 inch separates you guys from long edges, or short edges, I should say. And so basically, you're going to be rolling on the Exterminatus disaster table, and everybody gets the Zealot special rule. This is kind of cool. This would be kind of good one if you're playing a large infantry battle kind of thing, you know. Be lots of fun. But Eldar don't like to play big infantry battles. At least I don't like to play big infantry battles for Apocalypse. And so let's have a look at the special rules. The special rules and how they affect our pretty little Eldar. Let's look at formations and formation types. And so now we get armored spearheads, flyer wings, battle formations, high commands, massive fortifications, psychic choirs, super heavies, super heavy walkers, super heavy flyers, gargantuan creatures, and flying gargantuan creatures. And so for armored spearheads, this is really cool. This is a nice addition to Apocalypse. This is kind of like what they had with that Spearheads expansion they put out a few years back. It was like in a free, it was free in a white dwarf. It was really kind of cool, you know. It offered up, you know, formations for our vehicles and such. This works for, I do believe, 3 to 5 vehicles, and they have to be of the same kind of tank. So if you took 3 Falcons, 3 Fire Prisms, you could just take them in this formation. And so basically, you have 3 different formations that your vehicles can go into. An arrowhead formation, a broadsword, a rapier. When you're in the arrowhead formation, which is kind of like a phalanx, they get the tank hunter. Now it's very specific how you have to form up in this formation, but I mean the benefits are really cool. And if you got the room on the table to do it, and you want something to look really impressive on the table, and you got all these falcons flying around, and yeah, why not go into arrowhead formation, right? Broadsword formation, when you're in it, which is basically a straight line facing the enemy. Everybody gets preferred enemy. Very handy. And then rapier is a straight column facing into the enemy. Basically, you can add 12 inches onto your flat out speed. And so that's it for the vehicle formations. This is really cool. This is something really interesting, especially when you do, say for example, wave serpents, fire prisms, night spinners, falcons. Can you do it even with your super heavies? Can you imagine a column of lynx, scorpions, cobras? Wow. You could do all sorts of stuff. Imagine little lynx moving around, like 3 lynx in a formation, and they're all getting tank hunters. Lots of fun there. There's, like I said, there's so many possibilities with Apocalypse now, and for Eldar. And Eldar and Apocalypse really do shine in Apocalypse. Everything seems to be really geared towards the Imperium side of things, but Eldar get just so many advantages in Apocalypse. Well, because they're so weak, right? Normally on a tabletop, but I mean, we get so much firepower. And so the next thing is flyer wings. And basically it's the same thing as the armored spearheads, except that they're flyers, right? You can go into an arrowhead formation, broadsword, or rapier. Now, I don't know why flyers would want to go into a rapier formation unless they really need to scatter. Well, I guess if you had Valkyries, you know, like, could you imagine for Eldar, the vampire that is the transport, and took 3 of them? That'd be tons of fun, right? And so when flyers are in the rapier formation, they also get strafing run, which is kind of nice. In the Aeronautica book for Forge World, the Eldar flyers, they get a lot of the planes get strafing run anyway. So, and any of us Eldar players who are serious about our apocalypse armies, we've already got a bunch of flyers, and we've already got strafing run, and we've already been massacring tons of infantry. And so next, let's look at battle formations. Well, the battle formations for Eldar, there's not a whole lot, but I imagine we'll be getting an expansion soon enough. And so battle formations consist of things like the Phoenix Court of Cain, which is kind of like it was before, where it's an avatar and all the Phoenix Lord. It's pretty much the same, except that you don't have to pay that additional points cost. And his ranges are up to 24 inches for his attacks, and he still gets the bonus attacks for every Phoenix Lord in the formation. The other formation we get access to is the Cloud Strike formation. This is kind of like the previous one, except with no flyer this time. It's 3 to 5 Falcons. They can deep strike, which is kind of nice, instead of getting that flyer special rule, right? And now, when they move flat out, they gain Shrouded. They can also supercharge their weapons like before, but they also get Twin Link now, which is kind of nice. And so the next battle formation for our Eldar, the Sunstorm Squadron. Now this is one of my favorites. They changed the number of tanks that you can take in the unit. It's only 3 to 5 now, but its rules have slightly changed a little bit. Because now it's every contributor, up to 4 contributors. But this is completely insane what this thing can do. The ranges go up and the blast becomes twin linked like before, which is kind of like what we get now. And so basically, if you have all of these fire prisms contributing as one, they can shoot 120 inches using the apocalyptic mega barrage, and that's a strength D, strength 10, strength 9, all AP 1 using the mega blast. This is ridiculous. Holy moly, is this lots of fun. Even if you only have 1 contributor, so if you only have two tanks left, you can still shoot 84 inches at a strength 8, AP enough to kill a Terminator with a large blast, and it has the Lance special rule. You could take Wraith Knights in a Dreamwalker squad, 3 to 5 Wraith Knights. And so basically these guys, they add the number of models in the formation to the distance they are allowed to move in the movement phase, to their charge range, and to their weapon skill and ballistic skill. That's pretty big. So if you have 5 of these guys, they can move 17 inches. They can charge +5. They can shoot at a ballistic skill of 9. Weapon skill of 9. These guys become really nasty in Apocalypse, if you take a whole bunch of them. And then finally, we come to my favorite Apocalypse formation, the Wind Rider Host. And so basically, this is kind of like what it was before. You had to take an Autarch, but now you have to take 2 jet bike squads and a Viper squadron. And you can take 3 plus units of the following combination: a Fireseer, Council, more jet bikes, and more Vipers. And everybody has to be on jet bikes in this. The special rule this thing gets is Scout. Lots of fun. And they also get the Tornado of Blades. So as long as they're within 18 inches of their Autarch, they get to reroll Failed to Wound. Oh, I'll be taking this formation for sure. And they also get to reroll their Failed to Penetration rolls. Definitely be taking my Wind Rider War Host out for a spin more often. The addition of Scout is just lots of fun. This is just, you know, reading through this stuff just makes me want to play the game so badly. And so next, let's look at High Commands. High Commands, basically like big, massive command sections for your army. Get to throw all your HQ together and stuff. High Commands. And so basically they get additional resources. So as long as one of your HQ in your High Command is on the table, and after your schedule breaks, you can take an additional strategic asset. That's lots of fun. And they can also call an all-out attack, where when they declare an all-out attack, the unit can triple its distance in its move, but may not shoot or run in the shooting phase, but it can charge in the charge phase. Charging unit is not slowed by difficult terrain and any vehicles that move flat out. And so this applies to vehicles as well. They just can't move flat out. And so that's really cool. It's lots of stuff. Massive fortifications. I don't know how many Eldar players out there take a lot of fortifications. And so I've never really considered fortifications other than how I was going to deal with them. So massive fortifications, I don't know. Not too concerned with them. Plus, you get lots of destroyer in Eldar army, right? Next is Psychic Choir. Now, Eldar get one with the Seer Council. And so basically everybody is one big unit. You combine your warp charge for determining your psychic pool. And so Psychic Choir may use its power, Psychic Choir power, once per turn as long as there are still at least 3 models in the unit left. Perils of the warp, you can re-roll. If you fail your psychic test, you have to roll on the special table, and it's Terrors of the Warp table. And there's all sorts of stuff bad. In addition to taking the wound that you took for periling anyway, right? If you have access to the greater demons and stuff like that, yeah, you could end up manifesting one of these things if you fail. And so, yeah, it's kind of bad. But Psychic Choir, lots of fun. Super Heavies. The nice thing here I liked about this edition is the fact that all Super Heavies, when they die, they explode. There's no more structure points. It's all hull points. So now vehicles have, you know, what looks like a crazy amount of hull points. But it was kind of the same anyway when Forge World updated the Apocalypse rules to incorporate the structure points and hull point system, and it's all pretty much the same anyway now. And Super Heavies, there's very little difference other than they get special rules, they cause fear, move through cover, and they're invincible behemoths. They also get some fun stuff like Thunder Blitz, which is basically a souped up tank shocking, and you basically roll, and they can also ram. And so for us Eldar players, we have our Lynx and our Scorpions and Cobras and our Vampires, although Vampires don't do a whole lot of ramming. And so Scorpions, lots of fun. We're also not affected by crew shaken, crew stunned, immobilized, or weapon destroyed results anymore. And so basically, you know, you don't have to even worry about that. So for our Scorpions, you know, you don't have to worry about getting hit and getting, you know, the cannon taken out prematurely or anything like that. And so Super Heavies become really tough in Apocalypse. And Eldar, they get just a whole lot better, because for Eldar before, like I remember, you know, my Scorpion moving around and get my pulsars taken out. And now my Scorpion is basically just a big paperweight running around and knocking stuff over and trying to ram and, you know, doing stuff with it that I normally wouldn't be doing if I had lost those guns. And so, yeah. Super Heavy Walkers. Well, we get access to Super Heavy Walkers. They can still stomp. They move 12. Super Heavy Walkers get all sorts of special rules. They get Fear, Hammer of Wrath, Invincible Behemoth, Move Through Cover, Relentless, Smash, and Strike Down. Just lots of fun. They can still stomp. Stomp has changed. It's not an attack against everybody and that's in their base contact. Now it's you roll on the table for everything, and yeah, basically it's 1 is nothing, 2 to 5. They take a strength 6 hit, and a 6 you smush it, basically. And against vehicles, it's a similar kind of thing. You know, it suffers penetrating hit. On a 1, you do nothing, and a 6, you just destroy that vehicle. Super Heavy Flyers, for all our Vampires and such, they get the Fear and Invincible Behemoths. Big difference here for Super Heavy Flyers is that when they get destroyed, they don't crash and burn like regular Flyers. They explode like the rest of the Super Heavies, and so it's kind of scary when the Vampires flying around and get smoked. And Gargantuan creatures, well, we don't have Gargantuan creatures. Apocalypse weapons, primary weapons. So for all our primary weapons out there, you roll. So primary weapons before were, it was a 3 better save against damage. Now primary weapon is you get 2 dice for penetration rolls. Lots of fun. The destroyer rules changed greatly for Eldar, became a lot better. Since a lot of Eldar Super Heavy stuff and all that jazz is like it's all destroyer. Eldar in Apocalypse bring so much destroyer, it's ridiculous. It's almost unfair. I say almost, but I mean, you know, nuts to them, really. And so destroyer against models and against vehicles, okay. And so destroyer weapons, basically against a vehicle and buildings, they'll suffer a penetrating hit on a 1, 2 to 5, they'll lose D3 plus 1 hull points, and on a 6, they lose D6 plus 6 hull points. that's just completely destroying stuff, right? Against infantry and such, on a 1, nothing happens. A 2 to 5, they lose D3 plus 1 wounds, and on a 6, they lose D6 plus 6 wounds. Ouch. Destroyer weapons become really great in Apocalypse. The Hellstorm template works pretty much the way it did before. Vortex, I don't think we get Vortex. I don't know. But let me know what you guys think. Destroyers. For Eldar, do you think Eldar have an unfair advantage when it comes to Apocalypse because we can bring so much destroyer weaponry? Let me know what you guys think. And so yeah, the 10-inch blast is no longer the big blast. Now we get 15-inch blasts, but it's got varying strengths within it. And so like for the Sunstorm Squadron, you know, it's got those varying strengths, which is really cool. Finally, let's look at a few of our other formations. Let's look at the Phantom Titan. This guy has not changed in points. Now, a lot of people out there may not have had access to the Phantom Titan, as he was predominantly only within the Imperial Armor books. I don't think he was in the previous Apocalypse books. Or maybe he was. I don't remember. I'm not going to look it up either. Basically, his stats pretty much have remained the same. He actually, I think he keeps the same amount of hull points. He's got a huge amount of hull points, which I think is pretty much the same as what his previous structure points were. He has the Phantom Cloudburst Missile Launcher, the Phantom Missile Launcher, and a Carapace-mounted Phantom Star Cannon. His special rules, Agile. Basically, this guy can fire all his weapons, move normally. He can fire a single weapon and run. He can fire no weapons and run twice. And so if you give this guy the close combat weapon, he can really skedaddle across the table. And so weapons he has access to are the Phantom D Cannon, Phantom Pulsar. These are basically his 2 main guns other than his close combat weapon. These are both D. They're both AP enough to kill a Terminator. They're both primary weapons. The D Cannon can only fire once, but it fires with the Apocalyptic Blast, which is the 10-inch. The Pulsar can fire 4 times with the large blast. So it's remained pretty much the same. He also has his missile launcher in his shoulder, which is 48 inches, strength 7, AP enough to kill a Marine. It's a heavy 4 interceptor Skyfire. Nice. This guy's, you know, a nice little anti-air platform. And in his other shoulder, he still gets his other missile launcher, which is basically crack missiles, heavy 4. He's also got his Star Cannon, which is special to him, and its stats are the same as the Star Cannon, except 48-inch range, and it's a heavy 4. He can also take a pulse laser when he swaps out for a close combat weapon, which is also DAP enough to kill a Terminator. So now the big change to this guy is the way hollow fields work. Hollow fields work really differently now. Basically, it is before you make your armor penetration roll, you roll a die. And if he doesn't move, then he is hit on a 3 or better. And if he did move, he's hit on a 4 or better. They basically did that because they changed the way the Destroyer works. Because Destroyer, there are no saves of any kind, no feel, no pains, no nothing. There's nothing there. And so the hollow fields, if they give him an invulnerable save, that would have made him too powerful, because then in close combat, he'd have got a save. Whereas, you know, vehicles really shouldn't get a save against close combat. And so I think that's the reason why they do it this way. Whereas the hollow field is, you know, it's this, you have to roll to hit. But see, the thing is, what makes it kind of crazy is that you have to roll the armor penetration roll. Okay, so you have to roll all your to hits, and then you have to roll these to hits again, basically, which is kind of odd. And so, you know, it gives Eldar kind of a huge advantage. But hey, too bad, we're Eldar. I mean, come on, man, we're talking about a Phantom Titan here that's armor only 13. Let's go. And so that's the trusty rusty Phantom Titan. Yeah, I'll still be taking mine out for spins every once in a while. And so next, we look at the Revenant Titan. His stats pretty much stay the same, except his cost. His cost went up like 50%, I think. I don't know, I could be wrong, but yeah, his cost went up. But I mean, this is a guy who's got a jump pack. He flies around, right? His weapons pretty much stay the same from previous edition. He's still got 2 shots, although, yeah, he's got 2 pulsars. So this little guy can spit out 4 shots a turn with D weapons. See, that's what I mean. Like, Eldar, we can spit out so much D-weaponry. And again, he's got the agile special rules, so he can fire all his weapons, or he can fire a single weapon and run, or fire no weapons and run twice. Becomes really fast. He's also got his little missile launcher, he's got his pulsar, and he has his sonic lance. And these all pretty much work the same as they did before. Again, he's got those holofields, so he becomes incredibly difficult to hit. He's also got his jump pack, allows him to move 36 inches. Revenant Titan. I still don't have one of these guys in my collection. I keep kicking myself for not picking one up sooner. So that covers pretty much everything that's in this book at the moment, other than the Seer Council. I did cover the Seer Council. And so that pretty much covers, initially, my thoughts on Eldar and in the Apocalypse. Definitely gonna have to get a game in. Let me know what you guys think below, as far as how you guys feel about Eldar in Apocalypse. Do you think Eldar's ability to bring so much D-weaponry is unfair? Or do you think it's good enough because Eldar have so much weak armor, weak toughness? Even our super heavies are relatively weak. I mean, we're talking armor 12s for super heavy stuff. That's kind of garbage. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. How many, send me links to Apocalypse games you guys have been playing recently with the new rules. And so hopefully you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe if you found this entertaining, informative, or, let me know what you guys think. Yeah, Eldar in the Apocalypse. Can't wait to play my army out. And I'll see you guys in the next video.